Good morning, flower friends. It's been a while since I updated you on the DIY little greenhouse and my vegetables. So let's get a quick look at all of that and what's going on. Did the DIY little garden house work for me for what I intended, or was it a complete flop? So I had built this little door to put on the front so that the kitties wouldn't get in. They were getting in here and they were doing things in here I didn't want them to do. So my husband had said that we could put this on a hinge and what have you, but I'm still working through. I guess when I pulled off my plastic here, I pulled the wire away. Anyways, that's one thing I didn't share. I pulled all the plastic off when it started to get over 80 degrees consistently here because it was getting too hot in here for the tomatoes and plants. And yes, it's working perfectly, exactly how I wanted it to do. And then we can recover it. I'm going to recover it with the greenhouse panels like are on my other greenhouse that is over there. So let's go inside. Got a morning glory here. My eyes are weeping this morning. Sorry, I don't know why. What's in the air? Anyways, volunteer morning glory coming up, which I think is going to be really pretty climbing on here. And I have my little rose over here. This is my James Galway, David Austin climbing rose. And then back here, I have a cup and saucer vine that I started from seed in the greenhouse this winter. So let's go on in and check out the tomatoes. This is such a confined space. It's really hard for me to get it all in, but this is the heirloom tomato, the Ananias Noir, which is a black pineapple tomato, and it is, I'd say, almost 4 feet tall now. And then this one is a beefsteak. Now this one I need to prune up on the bottom and keep weaving it in. I was going to do a video on how I do that. Oh, this one has little tomatoes on it. Wonderful. But basically, if you can see right here, this is my wire mesh, and then I just train the tomato up through it as it grows, and then that supports it. And or sometimes I will use pantyhose strips to tie it up. There's all kinds of different things you can get to tie up your tomatoes. And I see a piece coming through here, which I can train it up over here. And I'm trying to keep them separated. They are rather close together, and if I needed to, I could prune them just to keep them in line. I have several, so yes, you do lose fruit when you prune like out the suckers, etc. Like this sucker right here, it is the plant, the one that has all the fruit on it. So if I had pruned out all the suckers, I would be getting later fruit. So that's why I don't typically prune out all the suckers on my tomato plants, because I have such a short growing season. I don't get that many, and I don't want to lose any if I don't have to. So these are so lush and green. Oh, I got more over there. I've got early girl. I haven't been in here to really examine, so when I'm up close and personal, I can really see what's going on here. Now this one is growing. Can you see this? This one is growing out towards the pathway, and I can prune it, though it has some flowers on it. So I probably will just tie it up in, because here in front I have some basil and other things I've been planting. So that's an update on these tomatoes, how big and lush and green they are. I have backed out through the doorway so you can see those tomatoes, how gorgeous they are. So I'm going to show you a comparison of others that were not in here and protected from the cold June we had, very cold June. And you can see what a difference it made for me. Now I also seeded down there is a zucchini in the corner. It's taking its time taking off. I think it gets a little too much shade there's an arbor over here, if you could see through the mesh, and it has a rose on it climbing. That's an iceberg, white iceberg. So it may get too much shade, but it's gonna come up and produce. I have more in other areas. So I will get plenty. It's just maybe later than I anticipated. And then over here is a cucumber. And I put the mesh up on this side too, so it can be trained up on this. So the two sides have the wider squared remesh panels. The front has the cattle panel that we adhered. And then this side has more of the remesh panel, which is just the panel as you buy it at Home Depot or Lowe's. And I just hung it with screws up here. And I will just train the tomatoes up that. Oh, look, I got a piece of fruit on my fruit tree. I didn't know that. Can you see that in there? That is my fruit salad tree that we planted back here. I kind of was thinking maybe we picked a bad spot for it because we put the DIY greenhouse here, and it's kind of tucked into a back corner. My petunia baskets that I hung it in the front, I gave it a bit of a prune yesterday so it can refill in because a lot of it was going to seed. These are regular petunias in here. They're not a wave or a super tunia. So it benefits greatly from a good shearing back every now and then. Over here, my lettuce and basil in there is doing good, and my radish over there went to seed, which I'm letting it. So this is another tomato. This is a black cherry that I planted out here, and then there's a little sunflower that I planted. That one is doing pretty good out here. And then I have some peppers that I've planted here. These are the habanada and the natapino, something like that. They're the heatless, supposedly. And down here, you can see I put, this is the buckwheat, common buckwheat, to help the soil. And then in here also I put the marigolds that I started from seed. Cracker Jack, there was a white one and an orange one. And I don't know, something's happening with this one. It's looking, the edges are a little curly. So I don't know what that is, but we'll check it out later. So down here is a few nasturtiums. They took forever to get going, but we had such a cold June that everything is much further behind than normal. My blueberries, which I haven't moved them yet, I keep saying I'm going to move them and put another climbing rose here to climb up this, to make this DIY greenhouse a little more attractive, even when it's covered with the plastic. So there are those. Now I'm going to take you down to beside the wall here, the one we need to fix. It's still in need of fixing. We were just talking about how we were going to do it yesterday, but here's the tomatoes that I've put here. Now, as I said, they were not protected. They need some support right now. We were discussing how we were going to do that. And massive difference in the health and height, everything. And like I said, we had such a cool June that these just struggled, and they were not inside of the protective little greenhouse. Here, I'm trying to move slow. They were not in the protective little greenhouse. So I am thinking whole reason I wanted this put up was so that I could protect my heat-loving plants, like the tomatoes and the peppers. The peppers I have going in there, they are a little bit bigger. I didn't really focus on them. I just showed you the zucchini and the cucumber. Are a little bit better than the ones out here, but not a lot. So I'm not sure if it's the area they're planting, the soil, etc. So for the tomatoes, this has been a huge win. It was super easy. You can see now without the plastic on it, how it's constructed of the 2x2s, which because they're just the pine or the fir that you get, the cheap stuff, I coated it with polyurethane so it would give it some protection from moisture, etc. So I would say it's a huge win, and I'm having fun dressing it up. I have different ideas for making it more attractive, but right now I'm loving it, even with just the wire mesh around it and the open roof, because that way everything can get sun, perfectly sun. And if it gets too hot, I can cover this with a shade cloth so I can continue to get fruit, because anything over 90 and your tomatoes, etc., will stop producing. Just look at this. Nicotiana. Isn't it doing gorgeous? And next to this elderberry, it's just such a combination that's gorgeous. So I hope you enjoyed the little update on the veggie garden. I love that tall raised bed. It makes it so easy to pick your veggies, etc. And I could protect it, the underneath, from gophers, which was imperative here. And that's it, my friends, the update on the DIY greenhouse and the little veggie patch. I do have vegetables planted around everywhere, not everywhere, elsewhere in my gardens, because I have such a small area and there's so many things I want to grow. So I hope to see you in my next video.